This podcast was brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process. Welcome, my friends, to the fourth episode of...
week number 4.
Of Diz or That. This is something we have to discuss because I think I have said it wrong on every single episode that we have done, or said it differently on every single episode that we've done. Dis is how you'd kind of want to pronounce it, but we are a Disney debate podcast. So I think we have to go with Diz.
Or Diz with a Z, except
Diz
with an S.
Like Disney. Yeah, it's an S, but we'll pronounce it like a Z.
With it.
Because that's how Disney is pronounced. Diz or That, a Disney debate podcast. My name is Justin. And as always, we're joined by our co-host. He's not Christopher Robin, but he's Christopher Robert.
I will take it.
How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing okay today. And it's honestly, it was great weather today down here in sunny Florida. Beautiful day, beautiful warm weather day. I don't know what it's like up in Massachusetts.
Up in New England, it just snowed, so it's not too fun up here. We just had to shovel ourselves out. It wasn't too bad. It's not the worst snowstorm that we've had, but it's been brutally cold the past couple of days after having like a little break in the weather. So I'm ready to either be back down by you or to have summer come ASAP.
You know, I will say that that kind of themes up well with our debate for the day. A little bit of hot and cold. A little bit of hot and cold.
A little bit of hot and cold. I wish I could be. I wish I could be in sunny California or anywhere but cold Vermont. But I'll take Hawaii all day, every day, because we're gonna be debating Johnny Tsunami versus Brink, two Disney Channel original
movies, and two of my favorite Disney Channel original movies. There's some people that may disagree. I think these are two really solid movies, especially in that era, the late 90s. You know, sports are really cool. Disney Channel.
Extreme sports, right? Like not even just sports. These extreme
We had so
sports.
many sports Disney Channel original movies coming out at that time. I mean,
I did a little
nonstop.
I did a little looky-loo, and I'm pretty sure it was 98 was Brink, 99 was Johnny Tsunami, and then 2000 or 2001 was Motocrossed, that movie, and a few other there was a few other extreme sports and stuff. Yeah,
extreme sports and just sports in general was a huge movie type of genre that was going on. Sports dramas were really big with the kids in the late 90s.
Everybody loved the X Games. The X Games were just making a name for themselves at that time. So we have these two films, Brink and Johnny Tsunami. Chris, as always, take your pick, boy. Which one you want?
I am all about Johnny Tsunami. I always have been. I'm not going to say Brink is a bad movie, but I have a clear preference here, and it's Johnny Tsunami. I know you've been a Brink guy. I know you're a big inline skater yourself. So, I have seen you on some skates, and you can tear it up. But I know you're a Brink guy, so I think this one kind of falls into our laps a little bit.
It makes a lot of sense. I was obsessed with this film. I was obsessed with Brink.
You used to talk about it a lot, and I remember that. I remember, you talking about Brink. I remember you just liking the movie in general. We would watch it. So
it was a big deal. It was a very, very big deal back then.
For sure.
Probably just right time, right place. You know how that is. But man, hit me in a way like no other film has, and especially no other DCOM has. This is going to be one that I think we have had some mini discussion on this. This is going to be a challenging fight for a handful of different reasons. Might be a different debate than we've ever had before. And I think we really need to acknowledge right off the bat just how good both these films are. I just watched both of these films and fantastically done
for made for TV movies.
Fantastic,
they're pretty good for made for TV movies. They're good movies.
I don't know if this is just pure nostalgia that has taken over, but I was watching Johnny Tsunami. And I love that film. I thought it was so good. It was so well paced. It's so well done.
For sure. I'll say that just rewatching these in general was a lot of fun for me. Even more so than rewatching, Finding Nemo and Toy Story. I've seen those, so many times. But to go back and watch Johnny Tsunami, to go back and watch Brink, it was more fun than I was expecting. You know, you get that wave of nostalgia, but you also get, I mean, they're pretty good movies. It's not something that is coming out a lot today. And for myself, and I'm going to say this probably throughout our talk today, I think one is just a better movie. One could be a feature film. And
yeah, Brink.
It's
could
not
absolutely
Brink.
be a free. Absolutely.
It is not Brink. 100%.
100%.
But both, you're right. But really good movies, really, really fun watches. Very similar movies. They're
this
really.
Was my other point is just how similar these two movies were.
They weren't really pushing the envelope here on the type of movie it is. You know,
we knew like going into creating the debate before we even knew who was going to choose what. Like we knew that these were similar films. They fit in the similar category, but it wasn't until I actually watched these things to then realize how almost beat for beat these things are. And one of the points that I so wanted to bring up, because it's one of the reasons I was obsessed with Brink as a kid, was the soundtrack and how baller the soundtrack was. There's a group, Fastball, all about it in these movies. And I didn't realize that also Johnny Tsunami also features many of the same like tracks off the same album in that movie. So we have to I have to
I didn't know that, but that is really funny.
Like the soundtrack is not something I can fight today. And it was something going into this. I was like, oh dude, I'm going to crush it because Brink has Fastball. No, everybody's got Fastball in the late 90s on DCOM, apparently. It really crushed my soul.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep going on about similarities and how similar. I mean, they both feature the rebellious sports star and the disapproving dad. Almost beat for beat
the same style.
Wild. And the mother that is accepting. Yeah. The accepting mother.
The caring mom.
Of course.
It's so difficult. I'm trying to think if there is like an outside source that sort of gives Brink the good job, like the grandfather Johnny Tsunami and Johnny Tsunami. I don't think there's a 1-for-1 to that character.
There really isn't. And you know, Brink was kind of motivated, I think, more so from a sense of self. I think he was struggling with
Brink was more so from a sense of self.
So this is, you know, Brink's motivations as a character, I think, were, and it comes back to his dad. His dad doesn't know who he is unless he's working. He says that. Brink doesn't know who he is unless he's skating.
We would say that Johnny isn't like that. He's not when he literally says at one point, you know, he spent like his whole life on a board. Yeah, I don't know if he literally says that he doesn't know who he is on a board, but
I don't think Johnny's really searching for himself in the same. Brink is.
You don't think so? That's the entire point of the movie, even more so than Brink.
Himself. I think Johnny knows who he is a little bit. Johnny, he does not sell out. Brink is a sellout.
But do you know why Brink is a sellout? Because his father hurt his back and is out of work and they don't have any money. His mom is not selling any houses at the moment. They're struggling. They're struggling hard. So guess what?
And to put that stress on a child?
They're not putting it on the child. Brink he's such a good kid that he's taking that on himself and he is trying to do well for the family. They literally tell him when he's sitting down at the table and he's talking about getting a job that he doesn't have to do that. And they don't want him to do that. And they're going to get through it.
They're finding who they are in different ways.
Brink is motivated by a sense of family, a sense of love. There is no motivation for Mr. Johnny Tsunami other than self-pride, my friend, in doing something that he wants to do. So I think if we're going to talk self-righteousness, or even, I don't want to say selfishness, it's too hard of a term, but like, Brink's doing it because he's got people he's got to take care of, man. And skating is the only way he knows how to do that. Johnny, he's fighting for that mountain, but like, I don't know. It's not the same level of nobility that Mr. Brink has.
You know, but Johnny never sells out. Family be damned, he never sells out. He's true to himself.
Do you have to sell out when you go to a snowboard shop and they give you anything that you want? Do you remember that? He walks in the snowboard shop and they just give him whatever he wants. He doesn't need to sell out because the owner's selling out for him.
He's the grandson of the great Johnny Tsunami. When you're born into that, you know who you are. You know what you want.
So he's from nobility. And then we got Brink over here, who's essentially like Aladdin, a little street rat, just
he
trying
used
to
to be
make
a
it
soul
in this
skater
world.
until he sold out. He sold out, and
I get it, dude. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do to take care of your family.
He grows. He does grow a little bit.
Johnny or Brink?
Brink. He goes and does the whole the puppy team and.
Yes,
and
Team Pup and Suds, man, get it right.
I think the ending is very nice. He turns down the offer to be the captain of the X Games, whatever.
X Blades, yeah,
X
because
Blades.
Why? He's not a sellout, bro. He found it in himself to not be that way. He's a soul skater.
He doesn't
for
think
life,
he needs the money anymore. If he needed the money, he would definitely do it. He would definitely do it.
And sometimes you got to do that.
He was not about getting just a normal job either. He was not. He fought back against that. He did not like when he just had to get a normal job. He wanted to get a job skating specifically.
Because it's what he was good at, man. It was his calling.
He didn't have
an
identity besides skating.
But who still worked that job at Pup and Suds because his dad told him that it would be good for him, that he did it. He still did it. And he was still skating. As a kid,
he only had so much of a choice.
Dude, that kid was making so much money at that time, though. It was a good time for him. That was a good time. He was working like 2-3 jobs. It was great. It was great.
Well, he did all right. He had to work seven.
He was sleeping
7 months
class.
in exam. What was his pay? They paid him like 7 months in advance.
Yeah,
so he could buy.
Yeah,
so he was going to be working like as an indentured servant, trying to pay off the skates that he bought.
Dude, I get it. I get why he did it, but like, bro, he was getting handed $200 a whack just for like doing reasonably okay at the Invitational. So
yeah, I mean, the family dynamics. I mean, you kind of touched down as
sure.
The main themes. I like where in straight up in Johnny Tsunami, we're getting into some really serious issues, some social class issues. The whole movie is about classism. You got the skies and the urchins.
Do we not see parallels between Team X Blades and the Soul Skaters?
Not in the same way, because you're not looking at them as different class of people. They're the same class of people.
Absolutely, they were different classes of people.
I don't think that's even comparable. You had the public school kids versus the private school kids. Does not compare to
the private and the public school
sellouts.
Kids.
No way. The sellouts, the people that skated not for fun, they skated for money.
Dude, sure, yeah, and that's the same thing over
but
with.
It's not about a division of wealth and wealth inequality. that is what we're looking at in and even then. But Johnny, even as a wealthy guy, he was like, "This isn't me, brah. It wasn't him."
All I gotta say is all the snowboarders still had pretty nice snowboard gear. You literally see before Team Pup and Suds gets created, you literally see them in their gear just falling apart when the Soul Skaters are like trying to practice for the big competition.
All right, so a skates break.
The skates break, man. They're street rats, dude. They're street scrum. Like they don't have the ability that the high end dudes like the Skies do with Team X Blades. Like it's
they
applicable.
They all had that ability though. They were all good enough to join that team. Brink was good enough to join that team easily.
Sure.
So they had the ability to be on that team. It wasn't because...
But they didn't have the ability to be on that team because it was being gatekept by Mr. Villain there. I'm blanking on his name now. Val.
By Val. But
yeah.
Okay.
They couldn't have joined that team. He told them that they couldn't. He wanted Brink to join, and that was it. Brink was the only one that could.
Brink got in. I feel all of them could because they all did very good.
They're also all great skaters, but they would have never been allowed to be on the team.
I think, both. So, okay. Switching gears here. Both films, and we were talking about comparisons, both films end with a downhill race.
They do.
That is like the big end of the movie, which I think is really funny. They
X
both
Games, baby.
Almost have the same ending.
They have the same everything.
And which is funny because this whole competition, it goes down to like some random downhill race. And I don't know a lot about the inline skating world of the 90s in California. And a lot of people don't because X Games got rid of it in the early 2000s. They're like, this sport is actually not very cool. And
Is that how you're going to try to win this argument? Because the X Games said it was lame.
The sport died. I mean, this isn't even something that's relatable to a modern child. They'll watch Brink and be like, what are they doing? They don't even know what they're doing. And the skateboarders showed up. So, and this was a weird time in the 90s because skateboarding was dying, or just it was kind of seen as like the off sport, whereas inline skating was the coolest thing. Inline skating was keeping skate parks open in the 90s. That's like common knowledge. It's also something I read. But because I was wondering, I'm like, why and you obviously everyone has friends that rollerblade, but no one does inline skating like they were doing in Brink. In the 90s it was a bigger thing, and it ended up kind of dying. X Games legitimized it, then they got rid of it. It just became something that no one really cared about anymore. I don't know if it was association with the risks of it or what, but now it looks kind of lame.
He's calling out the whole sport in general. We're no longer talking about the movie. This kid is on a personal vendetta.
We're talking about the sport. Okay. I don't know.
This is coming from somebody who grew up in New England their entire life. This is someone who has snowboarded before. And also, I think there's some prejudice going on here, and I will not stand for this.
I really like rollerblading. And I'll be honest, I do. I played roller hockey. I like rollerblading. I like the idea of rollerblades. I think they're really cool. But it doesn't look that cool when they're doing it. It looks okay.
I think it looks pretty
We're taking
sick.
a step back. When they do it, it looks cool. When Sid down the road is doing it, it doesn't look that cool.
It doesn't.
It doesn't look that cool.
Well, I haven't in my actual life seen anybody do this. I have not gone to many skate parks in my life, so I can't make any comments on who is or who isn't doing this.
I don't think you will ever see someone do this in your life again. I think the only people that are rollerblading now are older millennials that are like, let's go back to this because this was fun.
I think there's going to be a resurgence soon. Gen Z is going to bring that back, or Gen Alpha, whoever's next up.
And you think Brink is going to lead the way? You think Brink is going to be like the
dude, Eric Von Detten's coming back in a big way. He's going to be there. Brink 2, it's happening. I'm calling it right now.
That's absolutely a good point. You bring 90s
up fashion is due to come back a little harder than it has. So, just saying.
I think. I mean, the Jenko jeans.
We're kind of in big fat jeans. We're kind of in like a 90s grunge sort of thing with some of the recent fashion. Like it's sort of back. So I think we're really due for that early 2000s, real late 90s come up.
It's been 20 years. Fashion comes in 20s. Is that what they say? Fashion comes in 20s. So
it's going to come up again,
we'll
dude.
See if
it's going to be back. The early 2000s sort of 90s things coming back. Inline skates are coming back hard. We're going to see Johnny Tsunami 3 because I think there was a 2. We're gonna be seeing them all again, man. The X Games is coming back in a big way. Calling it now.
We'll see. I mean, the day the X Games decides to take back inline skating, I'll hold you to that. We'll talk about it when it happens.
It's a different argument. I don't think it necessarily applies to the validity of what's a better film, Johnny Tsunami versus Brink. And I'm still sticking with it, man. I'm still sticking with Brink being the better film over Johnny Tsunami. One of the points that I want to bring up is that, sure, the film Johnny Tsunami revolves around our young hero Johnny, but his name isn't even Johnny Tsunami. It's not his real name. Johnny Capahala is his name. His grandfather is Johnny Tsunami. He never inherits the actual name of Johnny Tsunami in the movie. Like, nobody actually calls him Johnny Tsunami in the movie.
The grandpa's like, you're going to be the next, or he says something about being the next Johnny Tsunami. Like, he's the next up and coming.
I don't even know if those words were actually spoken, but I would have assumed, right, that the famous Jet Jackson would have called him Johnny Tsunami at some point to make that whole thing stick. That would have been like the last line of the movie, and didn't happen. Didn't happen in the whole movie. But my bigger point than even just that is the fact that the film isn't about. It's not even about Johnny Tsunami. It's not about Johnny Capahala, our young Johnny. It's about Johnny's dad. The whole movie is about Johnny's dad. It's not about Johnny. It's Johnny's dad coming to terms with Johnny's dad's father. So Johnny Capahala's grandfather, Johnny Tsunami.
Generational challenges.
It's wild.
It's discussing generational family dynamics. Oh my gosh. I mean,
It's a
that
great
adds
film.
so much depth to the storyline.
I get it, but at the end of the day, this movie is neither about Johnny Tsunami or Johnny Capahala.
I'll tell you though,
Johnny the computer wizard. Is his name Johnny too? I don't even remember what the dad's name is.
I don't know what dad's name is.
Computer Man. That's all I know. And the whole movie is about him. It's about him coming to terms with his grandfather and just kind of being a weird amount of jerk. Like, he's not a huge jerk in the whole movie.
So
but he's like a weird amount of jerk.
The dads go through very similar things as they become accepting to some degree of their children and what their children choose to do.
Yes.
That added layer though of Johnny's dad and his dad, I think, is really cool. Kind of adds again that extra layer to the film of this is generation to generation. You know, we're looking at family dynamics and values passed down in a different way than we do see in Brink. Brink is like, dad's like, okay, I like you now.
I mean, it's not just that.
It's not just like that.
Dad
He's like,
had
all
to
right.
come to grips with his own self because his son was also going through the same things. They're very much
make
going
money now.
through
It's fine.
very parallel like literally the entire plot of Johnny Tsunami is just the relationship that Johnny's dad has with Johnny and with Johnny's grandfather. I get it. I'm not saying that doesn't make it a bad movie, but it makes it a more predictable.
It feels more like a film with more value-based lessons coming out of it.
I think they're extremely similar.
I think we
just
see
executed
some things,
a little differently.
Possibly.
I think they're. And I mean, this is why this argument is so tough, because it is almost one for one the same frickin' movie.
I think. We see, okay, you want to start making silly things?
Let's make some
Johnny
silly
Tsunami
things,
has 2 sports, whereas Brink has 1.
Because it's focused. It's not ADD, man. It's not all over the map, dude.
No, it's showing that Johnny Tsunami can change. He can embrace change.
Sure.
That is a great lesson. Brink
learned how to work in a corporate structure, dude. He learned how to play the system and work the 9 to 5, just like every millennial has to do nowadays. He learned how to just suck it up and do what your boss says to get that paycheck.
His friendships.
He regained them because he knows what's important to him. And you know what, too? And this is one of the things that I have to say. Neither of the bad guys in the movie, I would say that the bad kid in, I'm blanking on the kid's name, and Brett in Johnny Tsunami is just like a straight up jerk. But like all the other kids that are like hanging out with him, like they're a part of that crew, but they're not really like total jerks. Like they're kind of nice to Johnny in a lot of ways. Like they're not super mean. Even Val is not that mean. Like Val gets dogged on a lot. He literally says that by the Soul Skaters. Like he's getting made fun of by them. And he's like, dude, just like, if you're going to join this team, don't be mean to me anymore. That's a fair request. When all the Soul Skaters bailed on him and didn't understand or want to hear Brink out that he had to make money and that's why he joined the X-Blades, who was there for him, man? Val was there. Val was there and he was like, bro, you know what? I'll still be your friend. It's cool. You know? So like honestly, Val's kind of a nice guy too. Like he's not even a big jerk. He is
not a nice guy. He throws gravel.
He did do the gravel thing.
He did the gravel thing. He almost murdered a child.
Kind of forgot about the gravel thing. He did do the gravel thing.
A big deal, and that's why we have the Val walk off. He does not get redeemed at the end.
He doesn't.
Granted, neither does Brett.
He doesn't either. And he started that fight with Johnny. Can we talk about that in that movie where like Johnny's so worried about like, oh, you just got into a fight on the mountain and everybody's going to be mad at him. Like that dude literally like stomped him in the chest with his boot. Like he didn't do nothing. Like Johnny is completely rightful in starting that, like in having that scuffle happen. Like Brett, I don't know why he was worried.
Had no reason to mess with Johnny. He didn't like Johnny's look. I think there was some low-key racism there.
Sure,
which another theme,
a lot of stuff.
Xenophobia again. Yeah. I think Johnny he comes to school for some reason in this Hawaiian shirt to the first day of private school. You
all he had.
You
All the
think they
clothes he
would have
had,
gave him
man.
like a uniform for the first day or something?
It
But
took time. Remember they had that scene? It took a minute for it to get tailored and to come in.
and he
But,
gets in trouble wearing the Hawaiian shirt under his
he
uniform.
did make that choice, though. He did make the choice to
He
ignore the undershirts, and he chose
Made
the Hawaiian
the choice because he was true to himself the whole time.
He was.
True to himself the whole time.
He was.
And he didn't let other things change. He tried skiing, but not because he wanted to. He didn't know about snowboarding. And even that snowboarding was
he
not.
saw a bunch of snowboarders though on the way there, which just has me like confused. But
snowboarding wasn't
editing.
even like a. It was really taking off more so in that time period.
Was
when
it?
there was
Yeah.
more of like a divide of, and you know, the 80s into the 90s, snowboarding was taking off. It was snowboarders are ruining the mountain. They're taking up all the snow and they're ruining the lines. That was like a big thing. I think
it is interesting being like watching these today where all of these things, skating, skateboarding, snowboarding, skiing, these are all acceptable. And like being a young kid in the 90s, like I didn't know any of this. This was all just standard stuff to me. So this is interesting.
It was like a whole thing.
Didn't super know.
But it was really about I think the division of the mountain, the way that was a little bit silly. It was like, oh, the skies get the resort and the urchins get the public mountain.
It is silly, but they at least tied it into the story.
It's for the sake of the story.
Yeah.
And also the whole thing is shot in Utah.
That whole movie was shot in Utah?
Shot in Utah. It wasn't even
Why
shot
not
in
just
Vermont.
shoot it in Vermont? It has to be relatively
Or
as
why not
cheap.
just like say that like they moved to Utah? Why? I mean,
yeah, and you know what? My big problem is they moved to New England, they moved to Vermont, and then like in the kid's bedroom before he even gets there, there is there's a poster of like a Colorado mountain. Like, why would it not be something in Vermont? Like,
I mean, they
what
were
is
shooting.
this?
Those were all like Utah mountains that they were shooting.
So
that
weird.
doesn't exist in the same way in Vermont.
Probably easier to get to if you're based in LA. So
It definitely
I get
is
it, but-
why, but it just seemed a little bit weird. Didn't seem like Vermont.
I think they literally just wanted to be able to do the like JFK like New England accent on the principal, and that was the only reason
that
it
is
was set
funny
in Vermont.
because that was wild to me. I thought the same exact thing. That guy was.
that
I
funny?
don't know if he sounds like that usually, but he definitely had the JFK sound.
The JFK, and like us being from New England, like it's just so like that is not even close to how
But
people from Vermont talk.
I like that in the movie. I thought that I liked the two different settings that we had. We had the beaches of Hawaii to the mountains. I thought that was fun how they did that. It really kind of emphasized that change.
Sure.
We're going to be grasping at straws for this entire
A little bit. But
there's
at the same
really-
time, a good equivalent to me, I think, and this is like maybe this is even a higher level than you might think of, but it's like a weird like early like 2000s, late 90s like consumerism versus like the grunge era, which is like the Soul Skaters versus the X-Blades. Like it was super corporate, the X-Blades, and they're kind of representative that like new wave of like early 2000s like corporatism and clean and polished sort of Britney Spears
I
bubblegum
think
pop
that's more
to
fair
where like
than
the
saying
Soul Skaters
it's
are
a classism.
grungy.
I think that's more
And that's
fair,
fair,
to say
but it
that's
also
kind of the
sort
theme.
of is classism. It's not totally not classism because people who are in the upper crust and the people who are in the lower crust definitely identify with those two things differently. Like the lower crust definitely has historically always identified with more of the grunge movement, the Woodstock 99 rebellion movement, where like the people who had the silver spoon in their hands, they were all about the corporatism and the capitalism of it all, man.
It's
like, of
fair. I
course.
think it's going deeper like that for sure. You're not wrong
And
there.
this is
but
what they were thinking about, dude. When they were making this movie, this was a commentary on society 100%, man.
potentially trying to make a statement here with the movie.
They totally were, dude. Like that's what this whole movie is. Corporatism versus
I guess
versus
so.
the people, man.
I guess so. I don't even think we can argue the cast. I think in both movies, the cast is incredibly strong.
And you know what? And this is, again, nothing I'm saying today is ever going to take away from Johnny Tsunami, because Johnny Tsunami is a great film. Like, I can't knock it at all. But I do. One of the points that I have here is that the cast in Brink is better. Dude, the Black Power Ranger all day. The Black Ranger all day, dude. I'm not even going to say the Black Ranger. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say Walter Emmanuel Jones. That's the Black Ranger, dude. And he's in this freaking movie, and it's incredible. But you know what?
He was at MegaCon as well.
Oh, he probably is. He does a lot of. He
definitely does. I think he was at MegaCon.
He's a big supporter of that whole community, and it would be sick. We should try to find some Brink VHSs and get him to go sign the Brink VHS.
I was going to try to get one of those the hats that Jet Jackson wears.
Dude,
the urchin hat,
the urchin hat, dude.
The dread kind of.
Yeah,
they're hard to find. They're hard to find. But I was trying to find one for today.
I will give it to you, man. You got the famous Jet Jackson in your movie. That's sick.
Jet Jackson,
such a legend,
is huge. Honestly, you also have Kirsten Storm,
Xenon.
You
got Xenon.
That's another huge one.
It's huge.
Even the actor who plays Johnny Tsunami. And the dad.
I'm sure he did some stuff.
Both big actors.
He did some things.
I don't know their names. They have Japanese names. I'm not going to butcher.
Sure.
Also, I don't have them in front of me, so I'm not even going to pretend to know.
You have three real big stars within the Disney World community, and I will 100% give you that. And I think you got Jet Jackson. Xenon might be your top dog in that fight. You got at least two mega Disney stars. I think, I got a Power Ranger on my side. We got Eric Von Detten, who is also a Disney Channel star. He was in the show So Weird. He was in Recess. He was in Princess Diaries, and he's got one other credit that we're going to come up in just a little bit. We have Christina Vidal, I think her last name is. She was a big Disney star. She was in a bunch of Nickelodeon stuff. Sabrina, Freaky Friday. She was in every 2000s cop and medical drama, apparently.
Freaky Friday. All these pretty much stayed television actors.
So then we have David Graff, Police Academy, The Amanda Show, MASH, Dukes of Hazzard, Seinfeld, The A-Team. So many episodes of Star Trek, playing so many different roles. Incredible. The dad, David Graff.
We can go.
One of the bigger ones, probably one of the biggest ones. You have Tom Virtue in this. You know who he is? He was a science teacher in this movie.
Yeah,
you know who
he was.
He's the dad in Even Stevens, bro.
He had a very small part in that movie. I did notice
the dad
that little cameo for sure that he did.
That's it. That's all I need. I have a Power Ranger and the father from Even Stevens. That's it. And I still haven't even thrown down my biggest trump card yet. You got anything else before I throw this down? What else you want to talk about cast-wise?
Go for it. Before I had to...
Eric Von Detten was the main love interest in the movie The Princess Diaries, and that's a real.
Oh, you already
movie.
said Princess Diaries. Princess Diaries. That okay? That
did
is
I say
a
Princess?
film.
I didn't say Princess Diaries.
I believe you said Princess Diaries when you're saying Disney Channel.
Oh, I did. You know what?
And
I actually have a bigger trump card. I have a bigger trump card.
What is the bigger trump card?
I screwed up. You know what the bigger trump card is? Ties into one of our last conversations. Eric Von Detten was the voice of Sid. He was the voice of Sid. Story.
He was. Yeah.
Boom. There it is. It is.
That's the big one. So
real movie.
He did. So I'm also surprised that pretty much all of these actors, while they have done some TV stuff, there were a lot of them that I thought were really going to be the biggest child stars. That Eric Von Detten was probably, so big then. He had that look. He had the perfect Disney look.
Early 2000s, 90s
Which is why Princess Diaries, he was he needs to be the interest, opposite Anne Hathaway. And but now I don't think he acts anymore. No,
I think he has been done for a little bit. I think one of his last roles was Sid in Toy Story 3, I want to say, 2010.
Yeah, and now they're just living normal people lives. Do you know what Brandon Baker is doing right now?
What's he doing?
He's officiating weddings.
Hey, it's a great industry to get into.
He works for a wedding planning company, and he works as a wedding officiant, and that's just what he does now.
You know what?
Which
the
is
wedding
crazy.
industry is great. It's created an entire life for me. I'll tell you that. So you know what? Good for him, man.
It is,
you know what? I'm gonna hire him to officiate my wedding.
It is wild
Done deal.
because he really didn't do much else. In his world, he did a couple even Stevens episodes. He
interesting.
did Johnny Capahala back on board.
Interesting.
Where remember that he played.
I think I looked that up today.
And what's that kid's name? Jake T. Austin played his uncle. He was like his 12-year-old uncle. So that was fun.
What a classic piece of media.
And
man.
it was all about I don't even know what the sport was. Downhill.
Oh, was it like downhill,
boarding?
like longboarding?
Longboarding.
Yeah, it was something else.
Oh,
yeah.
What's the name of that?
Didn't quite translate. Didn't quite translate.
The Dirt Devils. What do they even call that?
Dude, I don't know. I have no clue. I did not dive into the sequels, which I don't think Brink has any. But like prime for the taken. I'm really shocked that they didn't do some heavier like 2 and 3 for Johnny Tsunami. Like you would think there's so many other sports that they could have done with that. And like the feud wasn't over, man. Like X-Blades would have continued on. The Soul Skaters would have continued on, even if it was like the Soul Skaters, the new class. Like there should have been like a Brink too. So I think we're still prime for it.
There could have been.
There absolutely could have been. That movie was huge. It was huge.
Lee Thompson Young.
Sure.
We're jumping around a lot today, but Jet Jackson, Lee Thompson Young.
Yes.
I also thought he was going to be like a big up and coming, and he kind of just went and started doing more.
He was in
serial TV dramas.
Yeah, he was in Rizzoli and Isles and a couple other.
He did a lot of that.
Things.
That's pretty much primarily, I think.
R.I.P. To him.
R.I.P.
Did pass away a number of years ago. But yeah,
Jet Jackson, the Jet Jackson movie, the series. I mean, it was
massive.
It was killer.
It was massive.
It was killer. And then he goes Johnny Tsunami.
Us to our little kid brains, like we thought these were the actors. These were
that you see forever. You're like,
yeah.
And then it didn't. I mean, in 2000s, you had those actors that really did become like generational Shia LaBeouf.
Yes, Shia, Hilary Duff. Like you had a lot of those.
A lot of them that became really like huge names, and we don't really get those out of either of these movies.
No,
maybe other Disney Channel original movies and Disney Channel series, but even then, I don't really think a lot really nailed.
There has been a track record for like the Mickey Mouse Club sort of era where you had like, wasn't like Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake both in Mickey Mouse Club like at the same time. Like you had some of these mega stars come out of Disney properties and stuff. But yeah, and I think they were definitely trying to build up these names and to make them be these mega stars. But something in the late 90s, early 2000s, it just didn't connect with everyone. Like it just didn't hit in the same way.
No, definitely did not. The directors. What do you got? What do you got on the director?
I got nothing. I did not look up the directors, to be completely honest with you. I thought they did a great job, though. I gotta say, I thought they did a very good job on that.
Had their different visions, which are clear. I mean, for Johnny Tsunami seems more like a drama in the way that it's shot. Brink is a little bit more like fast paced, boom, 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 boom. Johnny Tsunami.
I'll give you that, because one of my points is that I think the action is a little, I don't want to say like better, but it's a little more fast paced, a little more in your face.
Johnny Tsunami does a little bit more of those kind of meaningful moments. There's a lot more of that in Johnny Tsunami.
The heartfelt moments.
The heartfelt moments.
They're still there in Brink. Like
they
the conversations
they exist in Brink.
that they have they're absolutely there, but I do think it's pushed a little bit more in Johnny Tsunami than you would think, right? You would think it would be a much more fast-paced action for the kids type movie, where it's really not. And it kind of loops around to my point again, where it's really a story about the dad and not about the action sports genre.
It all flows down. It's It's trickle down.
Sure, trickle down storytelling.
It gets down, and it all makes sense. I mean, he needed to come to terms with his dad before he come to terms with Johnny.
Sure, and that's and just like Brink's dad needs to come to terms with himself and who he is before he can allow Brink to be himself as well.
And that's the same thing. He figures out that he's not his job, and Brink figures out that he's more than just a guy that skates, and he doesn't need skating to define him. Yeah. And one thing that is completely irrelevant, but I'm going to forget it.
Bring it.
This doesn't even matter. The director, though, of Johnny Tsunami is from Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Do you know where the director of Brink is from?
Somewhere in New England.
It is Hawaii.
Oh, interesting.
It's Hawaii.
It's really interesting.
It's like a little flip-flop there. Not that is...
I was going the opposite way, but that makes sense. Yeah. Quite funny. Quite interesting.
It's something for us here.
Yes, this whole argument is a touch of grasping at straws.
It is. I think
we need to take a quick break and recoup our thoughts to be able to sort of fight out the end of this battle. And while we do that, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsor, the Magic Candle Company.
Magic Candle Company themed fragrances allow you to capture the smell of your most cherished vacation memories. Set sail on a swashbuckling pirate adventure. Transport back to the tropical atmosphere of a beautiful South Pacific themed resort. Relive the excitement of a fun-filled day spent on your favorite dark water rides. Soar above a California orange grove. Embark on an exotic river cruise adventure. Recall that first bite of your favorite frozen pineapple treat. Escape to your favorite rocking chair overlooking a murmuring creek as you soak in the splendor of the great outdoors. Enjoy the scent that's beloved by foolish mortals and happy haunts alike. Or even recapture the nostalgic aroma of being a kid again, watching your favorite Saturday morning cartoons. All of this and more is just a click away. Visit MagicCandleCompany.com and escape to your happy place today.
Magic Candle Company. Magic Candles.
This is a tough fight, dude. This is tough.
Yeah. Yep. As we're arguing the same movie. But, it's still...
we really are.
I still like talking about the movie. And
I had a great time watching these films.
I agree.
I can't complain at all. And again, like both of these movies, I think are very, very good. And I was really surprised. And I don't know if it is a nostalgia thing or if it's like these movies are actually paced really, really well. And they're put together really nicely. And it is kind of a breath of fresh air to watch two movies that are like 90 minutes long and they're not like 2.5 hours long. Watching a Marvel movie is a marathon. It's an endeavor. And New movies are long.
Definitely think there's some nostalgia aspect to it.
Sure.
And I think that kind of also creates the basis of why we're even arguing the two movies.
Yeah.
I think I have way more connection watching Johnny Tsunami. That was a huge movie for me. It made me want to snowboard. It made me snowboard than Brink. I like Brink, but I had my connection, I think, with Johnny Tsunami, and that's where it all comes from. I think
I'm glad it meant something to you, and I'm glad the movie did that for you. But factor. I mean, just pound for pound, Brink, it's just the better film, like all day long. It's just as clearly the better film.
Why?
Because it just trust me, bro. Just trust me. No, I do think if I look at the two films, again, both great films. But I do think that there is a level of acting chops that are actually there. Like, they're both cheesy movies. Don't even get me wrong for 1 second. But I think that there's a little bit higher acting chops in Brink than there is in Johnny Tsunami. And that's from everybody.
Opposite. That's crazy. That is crazy.
I would say that Eric Von Denton, Val the villain, is a much dude. Just let's go villain for villain.
Those two.
I think Val is a much better actor than Brett is.
Brink,
100%.
Brink, but I don't think they're. I think the chemistry between Johnny and Sam is incredible in itself. I think the way they interact is like a real friendship, above anything else. I think that is really solid. As far as your villain, Val versus Brett, fair. I think
Brink wins on villain. I think Val is a much better actor. I think it's much better played. I would also say that the dads are. I would say that Brink has a better actor.
Man, I do not.
In the dads, man, I 1,000% think David Graff is a better actor. I think it was so much more believable. Every moment that he has in that movie, I don't for 1 second think I'm watching a children's movie.
I cannot agree. You have so Yuji Okamoto,
sure,
Pearl Harbor, Inception, Truman Show. He is been in the big ones.
What is he in those movies though?
Well, I listen. He's in the movies, and I will say this:
doesn't matter.
He is.
He can be a background extra.
He's in the Karate Kid. He's the main villain. Yeah, he's the main villain in Karate Kid 2.
Okay, I've never seen Karate Kid 2. So I'm just purely going off this film right here, and his acting is very slow and choppy, and it's not very coherent. Where like David Graff is like. He's that guy. I buy him as being that dad, being that construction foreman guy. Like, it's believable. Every conversation that he has with Brink, it's heartfelt, but it's also believable to where there's a weird dude. Do you remember the part in Johnny Tsunami where he finally lets him, like, he's like gonna let him go do the race? And there's this really awkward moment where he's like, "You're gonna let me go?" And he goes, "As long as you win." And it's just so uncomfortable, and it hangs there, and it's so bad. I never got that from the dad from Brink.
I think the family moments felt more like family moments in Johnny Tsunami. I don't
agree with that at all.
I thought we're in Brink's house, and it's so like. It's so one level.
Believable because they have the kooky little sister and they're sitting at the dinner table and they all interact exactly like a family from the 90s.
Because
she's great. She is phenomenal. She's a great actor. When she gives Brink that big speech and she says, "Skate better," and then he goes and he skates better. Great. Great piece of acting. Great piece of acting work.
Okay, so that was the funniest part of the movie.
It really was. I don't know if they were like trying to be funny with that or if it was like supposed to be.
They definitely were. I thought it was really funny. If that was meant to be the aha moment, then I think that you lost that immediately. You lost the whole thing. If that's what turns Brink into the good skater.
Skate better. Oh man.
Skate better.
But I feel like the family dynamic feels more real to an early 2000s 90s family. I think that the acting chops of the Brink dad versus the Johnny Tsunami dad is better. I will say, I don't know if I can go make an argument for the moms. I think the moms were on a fairly even playing field, but like, felt real in Brink. Real in Brink.
I thought the mom in Brink was just there. I thought the mom in Johnny Tsunami actually, you saw that she was upset how her son was being treated. I don't know why she didn't say anything, really.
That's exactly my point then.
I don't know why she didn't say anything.
The mom in Brink is constantly counseling the dad.
She's trying to get him to change his way. And she at least cares about Johnny's want to skate. Brink dad doesn't really care. He doesn't care about Brink, what he wants.
Because he doesn't get him, just like Johnny's dad doesn't get him. Johnny's dad does not understand surfing. He does not like surfing, so he thinks that it's a waste of time.
Johnny's dad understands exactly who Johnny is. He is fighting against that, though. He does not want...
Not until the end. No, he doesn't. I don't think he understands fully who Johnny is until the end of the thing.
He compares him to his dad the entire time. He says, "I don't want you to be my dad."
So he thinks that he's a beach bum and that there's no purpose to why he likes what he likes. It's so not until
why he does not want him to be. And it comes down to that. He doesn't get it until.
So it's almost worse.
We have the generational healing.
So it's almost worse because if he does understand who Johnny is and he wants him to not be that way, that's worse because Brink's dad doesn't understand. He doesn't get it.
Brink's dad sucks. We have Johnny Tsunami's character that really, Johnny Tsunami's son, aka Johnny Kapahala's dad. I know it gets confusing. Stay with me. That actually shows growth in the film. They all grow, except Johnny Tsunami triggers that, which is why the movie is named after him. And why it all
Fair.
This is about Johnny Tsunami.
He doesn't fully realize that he can't change his son and who he is. He wants to change his son the entire time. Where like Brink's dad bought him the skates, he encouraged the skating, he wants him to be a skater, but he just didn't understand what that was until he realized that both Brink and himself like fully identify with these one things. Once he understands that, he understands Brink fully pushes him into that. So if you want to tell me that Johnny's dad understands Johnny from the get-go, then that's almost worse because he's actively trying to change Johnny throughout the entire movie.
He totally is.
But I don't believe that that's the case. I don't believe that that's the case. He's trying to
change Johnny the entire movie. He wants him to be he wants him to be himself. He wants him to get out of this mindset. He doesn't want Johnny to be him. Johnny's dad is not. He is the main antagonist to Johnny in this film.
Absolutely,
he is like he wants Johnny to change. He does not want Johnny to be who he is.
And I don't want a dad in my movie to be the antagonist. That's a sad movie. That's a sad film, man. Where Brink's dad is not necessarily the antagonist in the film.
Johnny,
he's a part of it, but he's not the whole thing.
Sometimes you need to do what you don't want to do, and that was like Johnny Tsunami's big lesson to him. He's like, sometimes you just got to do what you don't want to do.
And that's kind of the same thing that Brink had to go through, man. Like, he had to understand that as well. That's why he sold out. He had to do something to help out his family, and he understood that.
He wanted
Sometimes
to.
It means you got to sleep in algebra if you also got to wash dogs too, man.
The money was so good, and he's like, give me that money.
He wasn't keeping it for himself. Did he keep any of that money for himself? He didn't.
Will say what Brink did was 3 times he turned around and tried to save the character that fell down, which happened 3 different times. This same exact situation happened 3 times.
Because that happens in movies. That's a movie trope. 3s, man. Comedy comes in 3s. Moments like that in movie comes in 3s. So it was perfect.
And it showed his downfall every single time. It showed
because he cared more about people than he did about himself.
I'm not going anywhere with that. I just
it's making more of my point.
I don't think he's making anything.
When he's selling out, if you want to argue that Brink's a sellout, he's selling out.
Saying it's showing who he is as a skater, that he's not actually a sellout because he cares more about the wellness of
his family. He's willing to do whatever it takes, and he's good at skating. And if there's an opportunity where he can do that to help out his family, even at the cost of his own personal relationships with his friends, that's how much he loves his parents. That's how much he loves his family. Johnny doesn't hate his family in the movie, but he thinks his dad hates him. He does not have a good relationship with his dad. There's a stronger family bond in Brink than there is in Johnny Tsunami, and it takes a long time to get there.
Coming of age. It is coming of age for Johnny. He has to grow. He has to grow up a little bit. That's what that is. Brink doesn't have to grow in the same way.
I mean, he still does. He's got to make those hard decisions on choosing, having to make money to support yourself versus like doing what feels good to you. Sometimes you do have to do things like you were saying that you don't want to do to make it happen. Like that's absolutely, he had to grow up in those moments.
All right. So what you're saying is we watched the same movie twice.
We watched the same movie twice. We watched the same movie twice, and this argument is unbelievably thin. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I can like fight in this.
No, I think it comes down to personal preference on the movie.
Do you like snowboarding or do you like inline skating?
I think it comes down to that. I think they did have different vibes. I mean.
Sure. And that's kind of one of my points is that I think, this doesn't necessarily knock the movie in any way, but if you're looking for a 90s, early 2000s movie, I don't think that there is a more to a T like 90s, early 2000s movie than Brink. Brink has that aesthetic in that feel. It's got all that stuff that like Johnny Tsunami has, but just not in the same way. Like there's just so much more of that like aesthetic that's just so apparent in Brink, and it's something I really appreciate.
Johnny Tsunami they really wanted to tackle some real issues here, and the
classism thing. Are we going back into
classism, this? Cultural identity, racism, generational differences and problems, resilience, adaptation. It has it
Are
all.
You just looking up a bunch of keywords for Johnny Tsunami?
No, these are all things that I've written down.
Fair enough.
And this is all what makes Johnny Tsunami, I think, a great movie what keeps Brink at a good level. Brink is a fun movie if you're a kid and you want to watch a movie about an inline skater and win a competition.
I just think it was
if you want to see a man move mountains figuratively and literally, you got Johnny Tsunami.
I mean, he won a nice little cute race that they like devised by themselves, but like the Soul Skaters won a legit competition announced by ESPN was there, dude. Was ESPN on the mountain that day?
Listen,
the
it's
stakes
more than
are
that.
so much higher.
It's more than that.
The stakes are so much higher.
And Johnny Tsunami, they brought the mountain together. They brought social classes together, saying we can all live as one. At the end of Brink, it was like,
man, kumbaya.
The end of Brink was like nothing was solved. It was like we still the X-Blades still exist. Corporate,
yeah, but the X-Blades are crumbling. The X-Blades are almost done. You can argue that the X-Blades are done. Because Val was gone, he was kicked out. They wanted to replace him with Brink, but he said no. Seemingly, that little industry, that little company, has such a long way to grow to get back to where they once were. The mighty have fallen, my friend. They're toast.
I don't think they need Brink or a head guy. I think they can easily find, if inline skating was as big as it was in that small California town, then I think it's going to be just fine.
Every team needs a leader, though, and you need somebody as strong as Brink, or arguably as Val. Like Val was in a bad way, a strong leader though. So like you need that Slytherin head, man. They need a new Draco Malfoy, and I don't know if they got one. I don't think they do. I think they're toast. They're crumbled. It's over. Especially if X Games gets rid of inline skating just years from when that competition was. They're toast, dude. They're done. The Soul Skaters though, they'll skate forever because that's what they love, and they don't need to be in X Games. Are we still grasping at straws now? How many more straws can we grasp at?
I don't know. I don't know. Even what I had to say to that, I was just listening to you talk at that point.
Yeah. No, I'm just rambling. I'm like,
this is something that anybody who has true about the movie, I guess. Yeah.
Anybody who's made it about 50 minutes into this episode, God help you, my friends,
is probably thinking the same thing.
Boy,
there is nothing that we can say. But honestly, like most things, like most podcast debates with poor arguments, I think this is a good conversation still. I think we're allowed to have good wrong differences for the movie, and even though they're the same movie, they have enough differences that create some type of conversation.
It's so similar in so many ways to our like Pirates versus Haunted Mansion debate, where like they're both great. They're both awesome.
They're both good. I mean, what are you going to say? Everything you say almost can get shot down.
They're so similar, but they're different, and it's just different flavors. And it's like, do you like strawberry ice cream or chocolate? It's just so it's such a tough. What do you enjoy more?
Well, just like any debate, there's going to be one person that's always going to, I think, stand up for one side, and I still am not walking away thinking Brink is a better movie.
This is,
and I think we're ending kind of on that note, is that our minds aren't changed. I think we still...
You've had a shot at some of these other arguments. I definitely think that you have had a shot at changing my mind. I was very shocked that like Smuggler's Run, your debates for that were better than I thought they would be. It almost got me to think that they were better than Rise of the Resistance.
I was surprised on what I was for Smuggler's Run.
We're at a complete stalemate with this one. I don't think we have walked in here with the same opinions that we're leaving. I think this is going to be a thing for quite a while.
Yeah. Yep.
This is going to be a thing we're going to discuss for a hot minute to come, and we're going to have to revisit this at some point.
I honestly would be very interested. I don't. It really comes down to which movie touched more people.
I guess
which impacted more people, and it really depends on what you watch more. I think both had the same airtime on Disney Channel. I don't think one was.
I would agree with that.
More popular than the other. If anything, maybe Johnny Tsunami would have the edge because they had the sequel. So maybe
I can see where you're coming from. I
maybe Brink didn't get the sequel because again, inline skating did die. Yeah,
because it was perfect, and you don't need.
It's like doing a movie about like marble fighting or something. I don't think that's the thing.
How many of those can you make? How many of those will ever be made?
I don't know.
they'll ever make a
But
marble
I
movie.
don't think you could make another Brink movie because I don't think anyone would really would get it. You have to do it for sport.
I
It's
disagree.
gonna be like Johnny Capahala back on board. You're gonna have to pick a new sport. Do the same thing with
I
new
think
sport.
that's why that sequel failed, though. So I think like not going back to the well, but continuing on that journey is so important. I think there is so much left.
We'll
to have
see.
been told with
I
the Soul Skaters.
I definitely don't think that there's gonna any inline skating competitions in the near future. I could
Maybe.
be wrong. Maybe there could be. I don't think so. The last person I saw put on roller skates was probably. I don't know, and I don't. I think everyone's doing it more so for like transportation now. I don't see a lot of people grinding benches and rails on their inline skates.
Fair enough, but we've also hit 30, and I don't know if anybody skateboards still. I don't know anything. I'm not keeping up with the youth.
No, people are skating still. Skating's still hot.
I think Barbie was skating recently, so you know she wasn't wearing inline skates, but skating's pretty popular. Roller derby's still a thing.
There are. I don't know if roller blading, like inline skates, are more popular than roller skates. I think these days they could be. I have seen a lot of people getting more into like roller skates these days.
I have seen that. I agree with you.
Way different sport, but I've seen people on skates. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of roller blades. And even
there's a girl who does inline skating, and she just goes up and down the bike trail by my house. So that is literally the only person that I have seen in the wild skating at all.
That's what I see.
And she does have inline skates, so I'll give her that.
I have not seen a lot of skates at the any skate parks. I will say
we need the skaters to come out of the woodworks and tell us what's going on in skate culture right now. Like inline skates, still cool, really lame. Is it making a comeback?
I would like to see.
I need to know.
That is one thing your movie really stresses safety. They all were wearing helmets.
Yes, the entire time.
That is pretty good. You know,
not that Johnny Tsunami wasn't. They were wearing helmets.
No, I don't think they wore helmets at all.
Did they not wear helmets?
I don't think they wore helmets.
Did.
No, they wore hats.
No, because they wore like the hats.
Yeah, they don't wear helmets.
Is that a thing you got to do when you're snowboarding? You probably got to wear a helmet, right?
Oh, I wore a helmet. Everyone wears a helmet. I mean, unless you're just like cruising and you're not. Really, if you're just, I don't think you need
traveling
a helmet
on the bunny.
But even then, why even take that risk? I think helmets are not out of style as much as they used to be.
Okay, all right. So I think at the end of the day, I think we've determined a winner right there. Thank you very much. I think that does it. Brink is a much safer film.
The ability to take risk. There's no sharks. There's no risk of sharks in Brink. You know.
I mean, is there really that many availability to be that many sharks in Johnny Tsunami? He's in the ocean for like 5 minutes.
Brink did have a pretty gruesome fall there. With
there was some bad stuff, man.
What was her name?
Gabriella. I forget her name. Gabriella.
When Gabriella takes that gravel fall,
takes that tumble,
that is brutal. When her arm gets scraped up,
mangled, dude, mangled. It's a dangerous sport. It's dangerous.
And then Brink visits her in bed.
Hey man,
I didn't think
that's a good friend, dude.
I never thought it would be this dangerous.
They all visit everybody in bed. Like when Brink is faking sick and Peter, or whoever the other guy is, like comes and meets him in the bed. Like it's so. Did anybody ever do that? Did you ever like come to my house when I was sick and be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" I never remember anybody doing.
I'm never. Even if I lived in a neighborhood, I can't imagine anyone even thinking
going
about
over
doing
when
that.
You're sick. Yeah,
that's insane.
Grasping at straws is the title of this episode. Have we beaten that horse to death, Chris? Do you think this thing is beaten?
I think the horse has been beat.
I think I could grasp at another straw or two if I really, really tried, but I'm going to hold on to that because I feel like at some point in time we're going to be somewhere at Epcot, and this is going to come up again. And I want to have some more people with the fire. I think, or when I go to bed today, I'm going to start thinking about a couple more points.
I would be very interested on. I could see this going a 50-50 on views.
I think so too.
I could. I mean, I really. Everything we're comparing, I think, had an equal aspect that was very well comparable as they're the same movie.
Yeah, it's same movie, different flavor. I'm very, very interested, like Chris said as well, to see what our Instagram polls are going to be. So make sure to go to our Instagram, DIS or that pod, DIS or that pod. We're going to be putting up these polls. Make sure you vote. We got to see who's coming out on top between Johnny Tsunami and Brink.
Jeez, this was a brutal one for sure. But
Absolutely.
honestly, I think this is my favorite one to talk about, just because I had so much fun watching these movies, and I had a lot of fun talking about these movies.
This was probably the best. I definitely thought the Star Wars debate was going to top it for me for these first 4, but like, man, this one pulled it out. This was a good time. I really had a fun time, and we're going to have to go back to the well of DComs and like fight some more of these.
There are
Disney Channel
many
like, deep
DComs
cuts,
that
man.
I'm ready to discuss for sure.
Make sure in the comments of not just here on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app, make sure to go to our Instagram and our TikTok as well. Leave some comments. Tell us which DComs are your favorite. Like, make sure you vote in those polls, but also tell us what you want to see us fight next, because this was fun. And I want to do some more deep cuts that I've totally forgotten about. Make sure you inform us on what some more good debates will be, and we will definitely work those into the schedule for further
Absolutely
episodes.
Anything.
Not just DComs, but anything. Make sure to let us know anything Disney related, whether we're talking Pixar, whether we're talking Disney Studios animation, other Disney films, Disney park stuff. Come on. Like, there's so many things to talk about. And I believe in our next episode, we will be going back to the parks. We're going to have to decide on what the official topic is and who takes what side coming up in just a little bit, but we're heading back to the parks in the next episode, and we want to thank you all for joining us. And we also want to thank our sponsor for these podcasts, the Magic Candle Company. Make sure to use discount code DEBATE to receive 15% off your next order. We receive a cut as well. It helps out our podcast. It helps out our channel, keeps us being able to go back to the parks and to keep watching these DComs, man. Helps us pay for those Disney Plus subscriptions. So we really, really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Happiest Debate on Earth. Thank you all for watching Disney That Podcast.
This podcast was brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process.